I worked two jobs to pay my sister's degree. At dinner, she called me a loser, and she is embarrassed to introduce me to her in-laws. I ended her rent and told the family exactly why. Silence until the first of the month. You might want to sit down for this one because what I'm about to share will make your blood boil, but don't worry, it ends in the most satisfying way possible. I'm Nicole, 29, and honestly, I just need to vent a bit. My life has been one long lesson about what happens when you give everything to a family that doesn't give much back. See, I work in commercial HVAC. Yeah, not glamorous, no fancy office, no heels or coffee runs. I'm the one crawling through attics in 120-degree heat, fixing broken systems in the middle of January when it's cold enough to freeze your eyelashes. It's sweaty, dirty work, but here's the thing, I'm good at it. I take pride in it. I make around 85 grand a year, own my house outright, have zero debt, and drive a paid off truck. Not bad for someone who started out as an 18-year-old apprentice making $12 an hour. But in my family, that doesn't matter because I've got a sister, Emma, 26, the golden child, the one who could trip over her own feet and somehow get a medal for it. Growing up, the favoritism wasn't even hidden. I mean, it was next level, like therapist, retirement fund type of stuff. Emma was the baby, the star, the one who could do no wrong. And me, I was the background noise, the reliable one, the forgotten one. When I was 14, I begged my dad to let me join the robotics club at school. The fee was 200 bucks, materials, registration, all that. My dad looked at me like I just asked for his kidney. That's a lot of money, Nicole. Maybe mow some lawns? Meanwhile, Emma was taking dance classes that year, $350 a month, plus competition fees, plus costumes. No questions asked. Not one discussion about mowing lawns for that. In high school, things only got worse. I worked at Burger King all through junior and senior year, saving every penny to buy a car, if you could call it that. A beat up 98 Honda Civic with an exhaust leak and a passenger door that didn't open from the outside. But when I finally got it running, Dad's big proud dad speech was, make sure you keep up with the oil changes. Emma? She turned 16 and got a brand new red Volkswagen Jetta with leather seats and a giant bow. Mom cried happy tears when she pulled out of the driveway. Still, I kept my head down. I figured life would even itself out eventually. Spoiler, it didn't. When college application season came, I finally thought maybe this was where things turn around. I'd worked my butt off, pulled a 3.4 GPA, got into a state school with a partial scholarship. I remember sitting at the table, holding my acceptance letter, waiting for anyone to be excited for me. Dad didn't even look up from his newspaper. You're planning to work while you're there, right? We can't help much, which in family language meant you're on your own again. Meanwhile, Emma scraped by with a 2.8 and got rejected from her top schools, but somehow still landed at a $52,000 a year private college. Mom and Dad acted like she'd just solved world hunger. When I asked how they were paying for it, Mom told me they'd been saving for Emma's education. I laughed and asked, did you save for me too? The silence that followed was louder than anything I'd ever heard. That was the moment I realized there was only one college fund, and it wasn't mine. After that, things were never the same. I stopped expecting fairness, stopped asking for help. Instead, I worked. I enrolled in trade school for HVAC. It cost me $3,000 total, which I covered by working two jobs. I was exhausted all the time, but you know what? It felt good. It felt powerful to earn everything myself, no handouts, no apologies. I lived at home to save money and paid Mom and Dad 300 bucks a month in rent. Meanwhile, Emma's fancy dorm room and meal plan cost them 10 times that, and they covered it without blinking. They called it supporting her dreams. When I paid rent, it was teaching me responsibility. Yeah, that kind of double standard. By 21, I was doing well for myself. I was saving for a house, working 60-hour weeks, keeping every receipt, watching my account finally grow. Then came the Sunday that changed everything. Mom and Dad called me into the living room, both sitting there with that tense look, the kind they get before a family favor. You know the one. Mom started with, honey, we need to talk about Emma. My stomach dropped. Turns out Emma had decided her college wasn't good enough anymore. She wanted to transfer to a fancy Boston school tuition 65,000 a year, not including dorm or books. The college fund gone. They'd even taken out parent loans for her first year and couldn't qualify for more. So naturally, they looked at me. Nicole, maybe you can help just for this year, Mom said. Maybe 20,000. We'll pay you back. I actually laughed out loud. You want me to hand you the money I've been saving for my house for Emma's second college? Dad jumped in. It's not like that. Emma's been working hard. At what? I shot back. Posting brunch photos? Mom glared and said, she's getting an education. That's important. So was mine, I said. Apparently, just not important enough for a college fund. Then came the guilt routine. She's your sister. Family helps family. You'll understand when you have kids. We've given you so much. You're being selfish. They played every card they had. And you know what? I caved. Maybe it was guilt or exhaustion or that tiny part of me that still hoped they'd eventually treat me like family again. I gave them the money, $20,000, my entire house fund. Dad promised they'd pay me back after they refinanced the house. That was 5 years ago. You already know how much of that money I've seen. Zero. Not a single cent. I wish I could say that was the end of it. But Emma, she wasn't done yet. That moment in the kitchen was more than just about money. It marked the breaking point when I realized my family's loyalties didn't include me. Emma's dreams were carefully funded and celebrated, while my own more modest ambitions were dismissed or ignored. When Emma decided to transfer to a fancy Boston college one with tuition that cost $65,000 a year, the college fund my parents had saved for was already empty. They'd resorted to parent plus loans for the first year but couldn't secure more financing. And so, naturally, they turned to me. Nicole, Mom started in that famous family favor tone. Maybe you can help, just for this year. Maybe $20,000. We'll pay you back, promise. I laughed, and not in the good way. You want me to give you the money I've been saving for a house? The money I earned working 2 jobs while Emma's been living it up in Boston? Dad tried to smooth things over. It's not like that. Emma's been working hard on Instagram. I shot back. Last I checked, she posted brunch photos 4 times a week. Mom gave me a steely look and said, Nicole, she's getting an education. That's important. So was mine, I said bitterly. Apparently just not important enough to save for. Then came the guilt trip. They played their cards like pros. She's your sister. Family helps family. When you have kids, you'll understand. We've given you so much. And my personal favorite, you're being selfish. I gave in. Honestly, I don't know why. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was exhaustion from working 60-hour weeks. Maybe it was the desperate look on Mom's face. I handed over 20 grand, the bulk of my savings. Dad promised they'd pay me back once they refinanced their house. That was 5 years ago. I haven't seen a single cent. It didn't end there. Emma's junior year, same story. Her loans fell short. Could Nicole help again? This time, $15,000. I was making better money by then, finally a lead technician, and had managed to save 8 grand in the year since. Stupidly, I gave it again. Plus, I took out a personal loan to cover the rest, figuring at least this time I'd have official documentation. Senior year came with yet another demand, $12,000 more, charging it to a credit card with an 18% interest rate because I was tapped out. Another guilt trip about how Emma would have to drop out 3 months before graduation if I didn't help. The grand total of what I paid for Emma's degree, $47,000. The gratitude, a single text that read, thanks, sis. You're the best, with a heart emoji. Emma graduated with honors in communications, which, honestly, I have no idea what you do with, but her life was just beginning and mine was unraveling. She moved back home for 6 months rent-free, spending most days job hunting, which translated to scrolling LinkedIn while watching Netflix. Mom threw a huge celebration dinner attended by the extended family, complete with a fancy cake and a speech about how proud they were. Me? I was making 70 grand and paying my own bills in the house I'd bought 2 years prior. Nobody thought to throw a dinner for me. Emma moved into a trendy downtown apartment with roommates. The rent steep at $1,400 a month. But mom and dad helped her with that too, something I only found out after overhearing them. My protest was met with a defensive, Emma needs time to build her career. You had a trade. This is different. That word again, different. Being the family workhorse wasn't glamorous, but it was my reality, and I took pride in it. I was grinding 60-hour weeks, saving every penny, watching my savings inch up slowly but surely in a high-interest account. Every dollar was earmarked for my dream, a house of my own. Then came the calls, the family talks, where the line between love and obligation blurred until it was impossible to tell them apart. When mom and dad approached me about Emma's tuition shortfall, I was incredulous. $20,000, my savings, the money I'd scrimped and fought to set aside. But I felt like I didn't have a choice. Not really. The guilt, the pressure, the quiet expectation that family comes first no matter what. So I gave nearly all of it. And then I watched it vanish without a trace of repayment. The next year, the story repeated itself, a $15,000 ask. The reminder that Emma was almost done and that this was an investment in her future. This time I was tired but hopeful. I used my better pay to scrape together $8,000, then took a personal loan to cover the rest. Maybe this time having paperwork would protect me, but it didn't. Senior year was worse. Another $12,000 needed charged to a credit card with 18% interest because I couldn't borrow more. The pressure leveled up. Threats of Emma dropping out, of her dreams collapsing if I didn't step up. Between tuition, unpaid loans, and interest, I'd poured nearly $50,000 into a degree I never got to enjoy or celebrate. And gratitude? A text message? Emma moved back in post-graduation, rent-free, as she eased into the job market. Her marketing position paid $48,000 a year less than I made while owning my own home. Yet mom celebrated Emma like she had just cured cancer. Then came the rent help. I overheard mom and dad agreeing to subsidize Emma's monthly $1,400 rent while she got on her feet. I wasn't getting on my feet. I'd been standing and working hard for years. When Emma's lifestyle caught up to her income, I should have expected the call. Hey, it was from Emma, desperate and asking for money again. Rent this time, not tuition. $1,200 a month. I was sweating, diagnosing a compressor in a sweltering mechanical room when she asked. I almost dropped my multimeter. Emma, I already paid for your college, I said. I'm not paying your rent too. Mom and dad helped with the college fund. She shot back defensively. They saved for you while I got nothing. Yeah, they helped, I said flatly. 5 years ago, you still owe me. Silence. Then, I'm not keeping score. I am, I told her. I can't keep funding your lifestyle while I work 60 hours a week. She hung up. 2 weeks later, Mom called. Emma says you're refusing to help with rent. It's really hard for her. I counted the money I'd given Emma. $47,000. $47,000. I care about Emma, Mom, I said. But I'm not a personal ATM. Mom was silent. Finally, we'll figure something out, she said. They did. Mom and Dad started paying Emma's rent again, all $1,200. I found out when Dad called, asking for $3,000, not for a car repair, like he said, but for Emma's rent. I drove over, checked the car myself, and told him it was fine. His face went pale. Okay, it's for Emma's rent. Connor's threatening to kick her out if she can't pay. I left without another word. The months before the wedding were quiet. Mom was too busy to guilt-trip me. Dad had stopped asking. I got the wedding invitation fancy, calligraphy, Nicole S. Chacon, and guest. No +1 for me, but that was fine. I showed up, Emma looked happy, Connor looked like every finance bro you've ever seen, and then came the dinner, where the real story unfolded. After all the sacrifices I made to pay for Emma's degree, graduation day felt a little hollow for me. She graduated with honors in communications, a degree I never quite understood but knew meant a lot to her. Emma moved back home for 6 months after that, of course rent-free, while she job hunted. Well, job hunting mostly meant scrolling through LinkedIn and watching Netflix. Mom threw her a huge celebration dinner, inviting the entire extended family, complete with a fancy cake and a heartfelt speech praising how proud they were of Emma for making something of herself. Meanwhile, I was making 70,000 a year, living independently in the house I bought 2 years prior, yet not a single person threw a dinner or bought me a cake. Emma moved into a trendy downtown apartment with 2 roommates. Her rent was steep $1,400 a month, but mom and dad helped with it while she was getting on her feet. I only found that out because I overheard a conversation between my parents. When I confronted mom about it, she said defensively, Emma needs time to build her career. You had a trade. This is different. Different, the word that kept coming up whenever I questioned the fairness. About a year into her job, Emma met Connor, a rich finance guy, the classic trust fund type just out of college. Perfectly slicked back hair, pricey polo shirts with popped collars. You know the kind. Emma was absolutely smitten, posting endless couple photos from fancy restaurants to weekend trips to his family's lake house. When I asked how she was affording this lifestyle on her modest marketing salary, her answer was always, Connor pays for most things. It's no big deal. Of course it wasn't. When your trust fund has more commas than my entire yearly salary, it's easy to say that. 2 years later, Connor proposed with an extravagant ring, and Emma called me sobbing happy tears about the 2.5 carat custom setting. The engagement kicked the wedding planning into high gear. Emma hired a wedding planner, probably costing more than my truck. The guest list was massive, over 200 people, and the event was a destination wedding with an open bar and live band. Connor's parents paid for most of it, but mom threw herself into mother of the bride mode, posting nonstop about dress fittings and tastings. Emma moved out of her apartment and in with Connor at a condo in a nice area near his work. 2 bedrooms, granite countertops, the kind of fake luxury that screams, I make $80,000, but live like I earn $200,000. Emma's salary was decent, but nowhere near enough to cover half the rent, which was $2,400 monthly. Connor ended up covering most of it, and for a while that arrangement worked. But 4 months after moving in, Connor started complaining about the money. He said Emma needed to step up financially and stop living off him. Charming, right? That's when Emma called me. She was desperate. She couldn't cover her share of the rent with wedding costs looming, and Connor was starting to pressure her about money. She asked me to cover the rent for a few months. I was sweating in a 95-degree mechanical room when she called. I nearly dropped my tools. Help you out? How? I asked. She said, just cover my rent for a bit, like $1,200 a month. It's pocket change. I wasn't laughing this time. Emma, I already paid for your entire college education. I'm not paying your rent too. She fired back defensively. Mom and Dad helped with the college fund. They saved for you while I got nothing. Yes, they helped. 5 years ago, I said. You still owe me. Silence. Then, I'm not keeping score. Well, I am, I said firmly. I can't keep funding your lifestyle while I work 60 hours a week. She hung up. I didn't hear from her for 2 weeks. Then Mom called, guilt-tripping me as usual. Emma says you're refusing to help with rent. Connor's pressuring her. I told Mom, I've given Emma $47,000 over 5 years. I care about her, but I'm not a personal ATM. Mom was silent for a long time. Finally, we'll figure something out, she said. What they figured out was amazing. Mom and Dad resumed paying Emma's rent, all $1,200 of her share. I found out when Dad called for a loan for a fictitious car repair. Turns out the car was fine. The money was for Emma's rent because Connor was threatening to kick her out. I drove over, checked the car myself, and told Dad it was fine. His face turned pale. Okay, it's for Emma's rent. I left without a word. The months leading up to the wedding were surprisingly quiet. Emma was too busy with plans to bother with me. Mom was deep in mother of the bride mode, and Mom's guilt trips paused. Dad apparently got the memo I wasn't the family bank anymore. I got the wedding invitation in the mail, fancy calligraphy. Nicole S. Chacon and guest. The plus one made me laugh since I'd been single for 2 years, and Emma knew it. I RSVP'd for just one. The wedding was at a vineyard about an hour outside the city. Rolling hills, sunset views, string lights. Connor's parents spared no expense. I showed up wearing my best $120 dress, which fit perfectly. Emma insisted on cocktail attire, but elevated, whatever that meant. The ceremony was fine. Emma looked happy. Connor looked like every finance bro you've ever met. They said their vows, kissed, everyone clapped. Standard stuff. The reception is where things took a turn. Dinner was a fancy five-course meal. I was seated with distant cousins and family friends. Emma and Connor sat at the head table with their wedding party. Mom and Dad sat with Connor's parents, the McMansion crowd, as I called them in my head. Everything was fine until Patricia, Connor's mom, came around greeting guests. She was impeccably dressed, pearls and all, with that rich people smile where you're polite but judging everything on the inside. You must be Nicole, she said, shaking my hand. Emma's sister. That's me, I said. And what do you do? HVAC technician? She smiled, but her eyes flickered something I didn't like. Oh, how practical. And you're here alone? Yep, I said. Enjoy the evening, she said and moved on. About an hour later, I stepped outside to get air. The patio had heat lamps perfect for the chill. There I noticed Emma, Connor, and Connor's parents talking privately. I was about to leave when I heard my name. Nicole's the one who works on air conditioners, Patricia said. Not exactly like that, but close enough. Emma's voice sounded clipped. She's HVAC, and she came alone. Boyfriend? Connor's dad asked. No, she's been single, Emma said. She works a lot. Blue-collar work, Patricia said quietly. Not unkindly, but not warmly. Important work, Connor's dad added. I should have left then. Should have walked away and left the rich people chat behind. But I stayed and listened. Is that who I saw you talking to earlier? Richard asked Emma. Emma laughed the harsh kind. Oh God, yes. Connor's colleagues all look amazing. And then there's Nicole in her bargain rack dress. Connor chimed in awkwardly. I love my sister, but she's different from our crowd. Different how? Patricia asked. She's kind of a loser, I guess. Makes decent money, but no ambition. Lives in a tiny house, drives a beat-up truck, works all the time, doesn't even try. The words hit me like a punch. 5 years. 5 years of giving up my savings, taking loans, putting my life on hold for her education. And this was what Emma thought of me. Seriously, Connor said louder. I was embarrassed introducing her to your parents. Everyone else here is a lawyer or financier. And then there's Nicole, who fixes air conditioners. My hands shook. I went inside, ordered a whiskey, then another. I barely noticed Mom coming up. Nicole, Connor's parents want a family photo. Pass. What? Don't be silly. I said no, pulled away when Mom grabbed my arm. Ask Emma what's wrong with me. Or better ask what she thinks of the loser's sister who embarrasses her. Mom's face went pale. You heard that? Yes. Nicole. She didn't mean it. I do. And I'm done. I left, didn't say goodbye, did what I should have done years ago, walked out. The night of the wedding dinner should have been a celebration, a chance for family to come together and enjoy a moment of joy. But once the fancy five-course meal started, it became clear the celebration was for everyone but me. I was seated at a table with distant cousins and family friends I barely knew, while Emma and Connor sat at the head table, glowing in their spotlight. Mom and Dad were absorbed in polite chatter with Connor's parents, the so-called McMansion crowd, as I dubbed them in my head. Then Patricia, Connor's mom, came over. She was the very picture of rich-class polished pearls, an impeccable outfit, and a smile that felt polite but sharp underneath. She extended a hand to me and said, You must be Nicole, Emma's sister. I shook it, trying to keep my guard up. Then came the question that cut deeper than any knife. And what do you do? HVAC technician? Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes told a different story. Oh, how practical. And you're here alone? I nodded and said, Yep, just me. She smiled again and moved on. About an hour later, feeling the weight of the room, I stepped out onto the patio for some fresh air and relief from the stifling politeness back inside. That's when I overheard a private conversation between Emma Connor and his parents. I was about to leave but froze when I heard my name. Nicole's the one who works on air conditioners, Patricia said. I knew she meant me. Emma's tone was tight. She came alone. She added like it was some kind of verdict. Connor's dad asked if I had a boyfriend. Emma replied flatly, No, she's been single a while. She works a lot. Patricia smiled, but not warmly. Blue-collar work, she said quietly. Important, of course. Someone has to do it. I should have walked away then. Should have left them to their fancy conversations. But no, I stayed, partially hidden by a decorative tree, and listened harder. Is that the woman I saw you talking to earlier? Connor's dad asked Emma. Emma laughed. Not a friendly laugh. More like one laced with bitterness. Yes, she said. Connor's colleagues look amazing. And then there's Nicole in her bargain rack dress. I could feel the blood drain from my face. Connor leaned in, clearly uncomfortable. I love my sister, but she's different from our crowd. Different how? Patricia asked. She's kind of a loser, Connor said bluntly. Makes decent money, sure, but has no ambition. Lives in a tiny house, drives a beat-up truck, works all the time, doesn't even try. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, sharper than anything I'd expected at a woman's wedding dinner. 5 years of sacrifices, loans, and grinding to pay for her education, and this was the thanks I got. Connor repeated himself more forcefully. I was embarrassed introducing her to my parents. Everyone here is a lawyer, finance, business. Then there's my sister who fixes air conditioners. My hands shook, the shame and fury clashing inside me. Patricia, ever the diplomat, said, He seems nice enough. Emma nodded. She is nice, just unsuccessful. Mom and Dad tried, but she chose trade school instead of college. What can you do? Like any of this was a choice. Like they hadn't drained the college savings on Emma, leaving me with nothing. I turned, face burning, went straight to the bar, ordered whiskey after whiskey. On my third, Mom found me, telling me Connor's parents wanted a family photo. I refused. When she grabbed my arm, I pulled away. Ask Emma what's wrong with me, or better yet, what she thinks of her loser sister who embarrasses her. Mom's face went pale. You heard that? Every word. Nicole, she didn't mean it. Yes, she did. And I'm done. I left her behind and drove home just like that. No goodbye, no drama, just freedom. The Monday after the wedding, I took control. I called my bank and canceled a $12,200 transfer scheduled to auto-pay Emma's rent, the same rent I had been foolishly paying for months, even after her cruel words. I canceled the recurring payment too. Enough was enough. Second, I drafted a detailed message explaining everything I'd done for Emma financially, how I'd funded her entire education and helped with her rent to the tune of $47,000, and why I could no longer be her bank. It wasn't just about the money. It was about respect, boundaries, self-worth. That text was my line in the sand. I blocked Emma. I didn't answer calls, texts, or messages. The silence was deafening. But finally, it was the quiet I needed to heal. I started focusing solely on myself, my career, my home, my peace. I stopped loaning, stopped enabling. Instead, I rebuilt my savings, replaced the loans I had taken out for her, and began planning a life where I was the priority. And you know what? It felt incredible. I realized that generosity isn't endless. You can care deeply for family and still say no. You can help without losing yourself in the process. Emma's world moved on. So did mine. Some family ties frayed, sure, but the weight of resentment lifted. I found freedom in boundaries and confidence and self-respect. Walking away hurt, no doubt about it, but staying in that toxic cycle would have destroyed me. This story isn't just mine. It's for anyone who's ever felt taken for granted or trapped by family expectations. Sometimes the bravest thing you do is say, I'm worth more. This story is more than just about money or college funds. It's about respect, worth, and the limits of family loyalty. Sometimes those closest to us can take us for granted, expecting us to give without boundaries or thanks. But generosity doesn't mean sacrificing your self respect or allowing toxic cycles to continue. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it's necessary for your own well being and growth. I've learned that hard way, through years of grinding and giving, only to be labeled a loser by the very person I supported. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was the most empowering choice I've ever made. You deserve to be valued for who you are and all that you contribute. If this story resonated with you, or if you've ever felt taken for granted by family, please share your experience in the comments below. Let's build a supportive community where we uplift each other and share strategies to set healthy boundaries. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real, raw stories from Reddit told just like this. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. And if you're struggling with family dynamics, remember you are not alone and respect for yourself comes first.